Welcome to Mission Business, a podcast about good business for those in the business of good. Presented by your Part-Time Controller, LLC, also known as YPTC. My name is Jennifer Alleva, the host of Mission Business and managing partner at YPTC. On this episode, I spoke with Dina Paul-Parks, co-founder and CEO of Healthy Humor, a New York-based nonprofit devoted to bringing the principles of medical clowning to a variety of settings where children and others in pain or distress need the distraction, laughter, and comfort that only a healthcare clown can bring. And now my conversation with Dina Paul-Parks. Dina, thank you so much for joining us today on the Mission Business Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
I'm so happy to have this chance to have a conversation with you. We've known each other for a while, and now we get to go into the intimate details of Healthy Humor. So let's get
since
started.
The beginning.
Let's start from the beginning about you. Let's start with you. I'm curious about your journey to Healthy Humor. You had an impressive 20-year career in public policy, working with the Cuomo and Bloomberg administrations. And now you are running a healthcare related arts nonprofit. I guess you could say you're clowning around now, or
Indeed.
Tell me about your journey.
Yeah, I'd worked in the nonprofit sector before in the earlier part of my career, and then migrated over to work for the Bloomberg administration and then the Cuomo administration. And I left right at the beginning, around the middle of the second, Cuomo administration, and ended up as VP of Community Programs at Big Apple Circus.
Very cool.
Overseeing not anything to do with the big top, which is a lot of fun to be attached to that part of the circus. Obviously, you get to go to the circus for free. Who doesn't love that? But really overseeing all of the non-ring work. So the work in hospitals and schools and nursing homes and all of the other community affairs kind of bucket of programming that the circus had at the time. And then in 2016, the circus was really struggling and the management decided to undergo a bankruptcy proceedings. And my partners and I on the community program side were a little concerned about what could eventually happen with the community programs. And we thought, we think we can save the legacy of this amazing body of work because it was amazing. And so we decided to launch Healthy Humor to basically serve as a launching pad and a safe landing place for those programs.
That's fantastic. And so tell us a little about the programs. What do you do every day? Who are you serving?
Our flagship program is known as the Red-Nosed Docs program, and it is a set of performers. We always work in teams of two. So it's two performers who go into mostly pediatric hospitals, or at least the pediatrics section or wing of, if it's a general hospital. And their job is to create moments of joy, wonder, laughter, and comfort for those children. But I think what a lot of people don't realize, it's not just for the children, it's for their families, it's for the physicians, it's for the janitorial staff, it's for the nursing staff, it's for basically everyone in that space. And what's really special about the work is that they don't kind of go in and do a prescribed or pre-rehearsed gig, right? This is not about going and do magic show and then leaving. It's very experiential. It's very interactive. It's very improvisational. So if they walk into an emergency room waiting room and there are like 50 people waiting to be seen, wow. It's a very different interaction than if they walk into the NICU, which is the neonatal intensive care unit. And there, the interaction and play, for lack of a better word, can be very soft and gentle and tender, versus walking into the hospital room of, let's say, a 14-year-old kid who just broke his leg, and so his soccer season is gone, right? And he's pissed. Yeah. And so that interaction is going to be very different. So what's really special about this work is we meet people where they are and transform that moment for them into whatever it needs to be for them. And when they leave, it's like a bit of fairy dust is in their wake. There's really a shimmer and a sense of magic when they've gone through the space. You can tell it's a fundamentally different space.
That is amazing. amazing. And when you're talking about this, it just is making me feel comforted, thinking about the children and their families and everyone around them in the hospitals that really need that level of humor, but also love that you guys are bringing.
I actually went and shadowed a team, and the very first on what we call clown rounds, of course. And so I shadowed a team at Bronx Lebanon Hospital. I remember distinctly waking up that morning and going, "Oh, I'm going to go watch the kids, laugh today. It's going to be so cute." And that was my perception of what I was going to see. And, don't get me wrong, that happens. There are a lot of giggles. There's a lot of silliness. There's just a lot of fun. I think what I was not prepared for was the power of the work, that really it looks like fun and games, but there's a lot that underlies that work. And I remember very distinctly watching a parent watch her child interact with the clowns, watching her tears, watch her child. And I remember talking to her afterwards, and she said, "Oh, I haven't seen her smile in a week. And I haven't seen my kid. I've seen my sick kid, but I haven't seen my kid in a week." And it's a gift to be able to give that back to parents, and to families and to their siblings. And so I think, as a layperson, we go in and when we see a person who's sick, we see a person who's sick, we see the machines, we see the oxygen masks, we see the IVs, and we see somebody who's sick. And the performers go in and they're like, "That's a kid." They're able to see the kid first and not the sick kid. And that makes all the difference.
That's amazing. Tell me about the performers. How do you get them? Where do they come from? How do you train them?
Yeah. So, all of our performers are professionals. So they are trained in some professional artistic discipline, and that is how they make their living. So we have artists, literally artists, like visual artists. We have dancers, we have actors, we have puppeteers, we have improv artists. But all of them come to us having made their life performing professionally in some space and for some period of time. And we find them the way that, you find all sorts of artists. We put out audition notices, where artists and performers and gig performers and variety performers look for work. There are a lot of amazingly talented performers who will just wow you in the studio. And you put them in front of a child who has burn marks, right? Who is burned out, 70% of their body, and they freeze, right? They can't. And certainly we aren't going to blame them for that.
Yeah,
right? That's a very huge, it's very understandable. It just means that this is not the right position for you. And we also want to make sure that they have the kind of wherewithal and sensibility to be of service, because it is a performing arts organization, but we use our art in service to something. So it's not just about, hey, look at me, I'm the star of the show. You really have to have a desire to want to be of service and understand that sometimes the show can't go on. And also, it's not about you. It's about your audience.
Are they volunteers?
We pay all of our performers as professionals. We pay them as the professionals they are. And we pay them not just to do this work, which is incredibly difficult and emotionally demanding, as you can imagine, but because of the emotional toll that they absorb. They see a lot in the hospital environment, and they obviously absorb a lot of trauma. And so we provide them with the services of a therapist in a group setting once a month. We provide them with ongoing professional development because it's a craft. It is a discipline, artistic discipline, and we want to make sure that they are operating at the highest levels of artistic integrity at all times. But the therapy part is important because it's easy to burn out, and we want to make sure that our artists stay healthy and resilient and are able to do this work for a very long time. And we pay them for all of that. We pay them for their monthly rehearsals. We pay them for their times in the hospital, because we know how difficult this job is, and we know that artists sometimes aren't taken seriously because they look like they're just clowning around and they look like it's just easy. And people very rarely understand how hard it really is, and just how talented they really are. That's
true. And it's really another offshoot of your mission or of the organization to support these artists.
Absolutely, because, they are frontline supporting folks who are often having the worst day of their lives. And they have to be on. You can walk into a room with a child who has survived a suicide attempt. And then you have to leave that room and you have to be just as on for that next family that just wants a little music and just wants a little joy and just wants a little magic trick. And so they have to be able to turn on a dime and be on for whoever needs them at that moment. I don't do it, but I can't imagine it is an easy task to carry all of those burdens and to be on all the time. And so we want to make sure that they can do their job well.
I love what you said about the support that you're giving the artists, because it is such hard work and such demanding work and such emotional work. So
absolutely,
that's a wonderful thing that Healthy Humor is doing in addition to supporting children and families in hospitals. But you also have some other programs. You have these connection workshops. So tell me about those.
The connections workshops are one of the places where our performers actually take off their noses, take off their costumes, take off their makeup. They actually come as themselves. And the idea is not to turn folks who take our connections workshop into clowns, but it's to try and teach us some of the tools that the clowns use in their work. So listening intently, figuring out how to read a room, figuring out what energy level someone is bringing to an interaction and how do you match that energy level, whether it's to raise it or often to de-escalate or diffuse a situation. So we've done it not only in the medical environment, we've done it for schools, we've done it for corporate
you did it for us.
Companies. We've done it for you guys. That's right. We did it at your conference. That's right. That's right. And it's, it's the opportunity to kind of interact in a different way and to connect. Sometimes coworkers don't know each other. So we've done it for a lot of companies that are merging, right? So you have two different sets of employees with two different cultures, right? That sometimes need a little bit of, hand holding and massaging to really bond them. And the idea really is to kind of take the skills that help people to connect and break down walls, and teach them in a way that is more accessible. So they use theater games, and they use interactive exercises. So it's not your typical kind of boring training, where you sit down and kind of, follow training. But we love the connections workshops. We do them for people in a variety of settings, and we hope to do more of them going forward.
Well, you're doing a lot, and you have a far reach. So Healthy Humor is headquartered in New York City, but how far of a reach do you have?
I think it's 15 programs across 10 states, which during normal times, non-COVID times, helped us reach about over 600,000 kids and families a year at those programs, not to mention our vaudeville and hole in the wall and some of our strolling entertainment elements.
That is an expansive reach. Do you have any plans for taking it further and going to other locations throughout the country?
There have been lots of places now where the amount of grief and loss and trauma and pain that so many are suffering is all around us. And so our desire to take this work beyond the hospital environment to all of those places is something that we're working feverishly on in terms of not just hospitals, but additional types of programming that will go into all those spaces that only art can, right? That where only art can go and where only art can heal. And so that is very much front and center in terms of what we hope will be Healthy Humor's future in the next couple of years.
Your part-time controller, the nonprofit accounting specialist, helps nonprofits everywhere navigate the new landscape by supporting them with their US-based remote services accounting staff. With over 700 nonprofit clients from coast to coast, YPTC assists with all your financial management needs. From bookkeeping and monthly financial statements to forecasting, budgeting, and customized dashboards. We help executive directors and board members sleep at night. More at yptc.com.
What happened during COVID? How did you reach your audience during COVID? And will that also help you expand your reach in the future?
So to be honest, when we shut down everything in the middle of March last year, at first we're like, we'll just give it a couple of weeks, it'll be fine. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, maybe a month at the most. Pretty quickly figured out that was not going to be the case. We all kind of got together and everybody, we started creating virtual content. We figured out how to deliver live virtual visits, which were really interesting, using Zoom and an iPad. And
the show must go on.
The show must go on. And the show, did go on. And I think that certainly by late spring, early summer, I felt like, okay, we have our sea legs. Like we can do this. And it was great to discover that, we didn't know how powerful that frankly the work would be over a Zoom and over a screen, but found it was incredibly compelling. And the hospitals kept asking us for more and more content. And we did, we had short pieces, we had long pieces, we had straight entertainment, we had what we call our tutorials, which were the clowns kind of teaching tiny little tricks to kids, right? So a simple magic trick or a simple card trick or a bubble trick. So that we created really a new catalog of programming that I think we utilized in a variety of ways. And then we were fortunate to be able to actually return in person to our very first hospital at Yale New Haven in September. And since then, we've opened up at 2 more in person and hoping to do even more so this coming June. So we're slowly going back to in person, but we have this amazing catalog now, this library of recorded content that I think we are beginning to think about what we do with that, but it did open up a really exciting window. And I have to say, again, because they're artists, right? Because they're professional performers, part of this was like, oh, this is a new medium. This is a new opportunity to stretch my artistic muscles and to kind of, push the craft. You can't take a tuba with you into the hospital. But if you're doing an interactive visit on screen, it's a completely different thing, right?
It's an option.
It's an option. So it was just an opportunity to take advantage of their creativity and their talent in a different way.
I mean, expanding the artist's reach, but expanding your reach too. You said something about the fact that there's so much grief and sadness and emotion surrounding all the loss over COVID in this past year plus. And that is an interesting opportunity to expand your support of others. I can see it working in grief counseling and a lot of other places.
Lots of other places. I mean, we've talked, and this was, pre-pandemic. We had a psychologist speak to us one time who said to us that the reason why the work that the artists do, that the clowns do, is so powerful is what creates PTSD is that somebody associates a horrible event with something, and whenever it's very easy to trigger that particular thing, and then they're right backward in that moment of trauma, and it kind of keeps them trapped in that loop. And the psychologist said, what you guys do is you interrupt the process of trauma in real time. Wow. And so the PTSD actually never develops. And the cleanest kind of most clear example of that I can think about is we had a child who, at Sloan, at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, who was diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer. She was young, like six or so, made a full recovery after 2 years of battling this disease with surgeries and chemo treatments, et cetera, and developed a long-standing relationship with the clowns because we're at Sloan 3 days a week, right? And she got better and, went on with her life. And then at 13, she's having her bar mitzvah, which is an amazing milestone for a child who was stage 4 at the age of 6, right? So it's a huge moment in the life of this family and this child. And the mother actually reached out to us and said, hey, can you send us the performers who were so critical to her during this time? Because when she thinks about her chemotherapy, she doesn't think about the pain. She doesn't think about the loss of her hair. She thinks about the song and the running joke that she had with, Dr. Diddley Squad or, whoever it was. And so that power right? To kind of be a balm in the midst of that type of suffering, in the worst kind of pain, I think is, its power and its potential, I think, is limitless. And so we're going to be searching for those places where we can have that kind of impact beyond the hospital environment.
That is truly impactful, to stop PTSD in its tracks in some way.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about the business of healthy humor. Because
Sure.
After all, this podcast is called Mission Business.
Yes.
So tell me, how do you fund all of this great work? Where do you get the revenue? As we get into our finance conversation.
Yes, the finance conversation, which is where you guys have been so key. So I have to tell you how we came to you guys, right? Because, we were starting out less than zero money. And I was looking at different, bookkeeping packages and software, and was convinced that I, could do it myself. And my husband, who used to work for the comptroller of New York, was like, no. No. Don't even. And I said, hey, I was like, I'm smart. I could figure it out. He's like, no. He's like, it's not about being smart, but when that auditor comes and they're asking for, general ledger and Schedule B and, this bookkeeping entry, it's like, just don't bother. So, from the very beginning, when we didn't really have books, we went to you guys, and, I remember I think it was Rachel, but maybe I have somebody else who, I first spoke to, who said, oh, you mean you're not coming in with like a box of receipts? I was like, we're so young. We don't even have receipts yet. So you guys really have been with us from the beginning, which I've been very grateful for, because we've had really smooth sailing with, all of our books and with every audit. So you guys have kept us, in tip-top shape. But we, as a nonprofit, we obviously do an incredible amount of fundraising. But we are also fortunate in that we have relationships with hospitals that are in a position to be able to self-fund the program. So, we are right now about a 50, maybe 60-40, mostly earned versus, raised revenue, in terms of, our, budget. And so we have a number of fee for service contracts. And then we have a number of foundations that support our relationships with hospitals that don't have the means to, enter into those type of agreements on their own.
During COVID, did you see a decrease in funding?
We did. We had one huge funder who usually, gives us several $100,000 a year. He was like, we can't this year because they're a business. Really, they're a corporation, and they were, their business was suffering. But they have been with us from the beginning, and they were very clear. This is temporary. We're not going anywhere. We believe in your mission. As soon as we bounce back, we will. That relationship is solid. So I anticipate that will be okay. And then we had probably our other largest donor. We had just signed a new agreement with them right at the beginning, literally like a week before everything hit. And we had spent a great deal of the 2 weeks prior kind of laying out the milestones of the grant, and, when the second disbursement was going to come, and what we're going to try and do with it, and all of these kind of parameters of the grant. And then literally a week later, they sent me an email saying, you know what? Just use it as a general support grant, because they knew they saw where this was going, and they understood. And I think it was really heartening to have a funder trust your judgment, such that they were like, we know who you are. We know that you use money well, and that you're, and we know that you're going to have some really crazy needs in this crazy time. So use these resources as you see fit to help ensure that the organization is viable and, it survives the long term. And so that was an incredible gift, very early on in the pandemic, in March, of 2020. And it's a large grant. So it made an enormous difference to have that freed up to really use however we saw fit. So, and then obviously the PPP made an enormous enormous amount of difference. It really kind of supplanted, the other large grant that we did not get. And we still saw probably about a third to 35% or so overall reduction for the year. But then, our expenses also went down because the volume, as well as the volume of programming, as well as the frequency of of how the virtual work was being done. So there was a little bit of commensurate drop on both the revenue and an expenses side. But those two changes by those two large funders and then the PPP were extraordinarily instrumental, I think, in helping us survive.
Helped you stay afloat.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, we're so grateful to have you as a partner too in the work that we do. And we are really gratified in the fact that the work that we do as accountants helped you serve your mission. We're so happy to be together with Healthy Humor.
Oh, thank you.
That was my conversation with Dina Paul-Parks, co-founder and CEO of the New York-based nonprofit Healthy Humor. To learn more about the hilarious and heartwarming work of Healthy Humor, visit healthyhumorinc.org. Up next, we will hear from YPTC's own Geraldine Dressler with a fun twist on our Ask the Controller segment.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Clown, a special spin on our Ask the Controller segment. Our special guest today is Genevieve Flatty. Welcome, G. Thanks for being here.
Hi. Oh, thank you for having me.
So, G, you head up social media for Healthy Humor, but you are also Dr. G, one of Healthy Humor's very talented clowns. So you have a bird's eye view of both the organization's business and programs. So how do you transition between both hats that you wear, literally?
So I got into the Healthy Humor family when they were still pretty young, only about 2.5 years old. But for being so young, they'd grown to like 16 hospitals, which is unheard of. And they were operating out of New York, and I was opening a hospital out in California. And I said to Deb, who's one of the founders of the company, I was like, you guys don't have any social media? And she's like, yeah. I was like, you guys should have social media. Who's running your social media? And they were like, eh. And I was like, I'll do it. And of course they were like, you just got here 4 seconds ago. And I was like, fair. Okay. So I was training with the company, and then I was working, regularly. And I still once a month would be like, hey, do you need a social media position? Do you want somebody? And so I started taking pictures of myself and my work at the hospital and posting it on my social media to kind of give them an example of this is what we could be doing on a bigger scale. And then in December, I made them this 30-page PowerPoint with all of this research on these are the different social media platforms. This is who you would reach. This is how we would approach each one. And these are the benefits, the long-term goals for 2, 3, 5, 10 years, blah, 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 blah. They said okay, we have to think about this. This is a big proposal, but we're into it. Enter March 15th, 16th, when the pandemic hit, they called and they were like, you're hired because we're going completely digital and we now need somebody that knows what to do. And I was like, that's me. I was helping them learn how to do the hospital visits that we normally did via Zoom, not only as the social media person, but also as one of the first clowns to do the Zoom sessions with the kids in the hospitals. And I think that was really good that I was doing both, because then I knew what we were capable of and what footage we could get versus what we are not capable, and what I could tell the clowns as their social media director, as well as one of the clowns. And so it's been a little bit of a learning curve, but now we finally hit okay, we know what we're doing.
That's great. And that's so interesting. So it almost sounds like before the pandemic, there really wasn't much in the way of social media. And then the pandemic really forced you to have a strategy for social. So then your Instagram account is amazing. It really conveys, the importance of the work that you do. And you can, I can see it in the kids that interact, and I can see just the professionalism in the clowns that are doing this work. And so, how will this change now that we're moving back to in person? How's that going to change, how you interact with the kids, how it impacts your social media strategy?
My first goal with our social media strategy always is to humanize the clowns and show the world that we are professional performers, entertainers, as well as kind of professionals in how to interact with children and care for them emotionally. Because we all live in the world, we know that clowns don't exactly have the best reputation. So we are trying to kind of it's an uphill battle, but I think we're doing a good job of kind of breaking those barriers. In the middle of the pandemic and in the middle of the rise of TikTok, I was like, this is it. This is the way in, is like doing real human things. So we started a TikTok platform. So now that we're back in person, you're just going to see a little bit of fewer Zoom calls. We're not going to completely shut down the Zoom program because we are still doing it with a lot of hospitals that haven't fully opened up yet. But you are now going to see more of our regular work, quote, of us actually in the room with the kids and the families and the hospital staff, which is what we love and we prefer, and that's kind of our home base. So you'll see a lot more of our older posts pre-pandemic, where it's us and the kids and we're like, bah!
No, that's so great. And that's so smart because, now you know that your reach can be so much greater than just, the immediate interactions that you have in the hospitals. As the wearer of both hats, what do you want people to know about healthy humor that few people may know?
What I would like people to really think about is our main goal is to use laughter for healing. And there's scientific evidence about when you laugh that it heals you, that it helps you because you release adrenaline, dopamine, all of those good things that help your body heal. And so healthy humor, we specialize in using laughter as a medicine, which is such a cliche. I know, but it's so true. If you ask any medical professional, they're like, yes, you need those moments of joy and happiness and human connection, real human connection. And that's what we provide for kids. And we have a program called Vaudeville Visits. We visit, people in older folks' home or Alzheimer's homes. And we want to expand it to just so much more. And that's like the secret future of healthy humor, hint, hint, of expanding it to not only children in hospitals, but kind of anywhere where we can use laughter for good, which is so cliche, but it's true.
It's true. It's true. And, it actually, I think what I have learned is that this is not a nice to have program. Like, it's really essential. It's needed and it's part of that healing process and it's grounded in science. So that's fantastic. And, I'm thrilled to get the chance to talk to you today. It was so great to hear about the both hats that you wear as Genevieve and Dr. G. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Mission Business Podcast. We look forward to bringing you more stories of innovation and perseverance from nonprofits around the world. I want to thank the team at PWP Video for their guidance and assistance in the development and production of this podcast. They are a great partner for Media with a Mission, and you can find them at pwpvideo.com. Additional information about this episode can be found at missionbusinesspod.com, and follow us on social media at Mission Business Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I want to thank Dina Paul-Parks and all who joined us for this episode. This podcast was produced by Erica Blair and Geraldine Dressler of Your Part-Time Controller, LLC. Dave Winston and Michael Schweisheimer are our producers from PWP Video, and the show was directed and edited by Pat Ganley. Again, I'm Jennifer Alleva, and we'll see you here next time on Mission Business Podcast, presented by Your Part-Time Controller, LLC.